Hey, it's Dr. Ron here with a question for you. The question for today is, are you primarily a critic or primarily a cheerleader? I'm talking about your interactions with friends, peers, co-workers, supervisors, employees, uh, children, parents, spouse, anybody. Um, you're operating from a particular mindset most of the time. And whether that mindset is one where the primary thing that you think about is criticism, that's quite a bit different than if you're a cheerleader, thinking in terms of what can go right and how can I help this person accomplish what can go right. Now, you may have heard the expression that they don't build monuments for critics. Uh, they actually don't build monuments to cheerleaders either. Um, I mean, for most people, we're talking about a behavior. There are some people who actually earn their living by being critics, and I suspect there are some people who actually earn a living being a cheerleader coach, and so on. But for most of us, actually, it's helpful to have a bit of both because that's not our primary occupation, that's not our primary purpose in life. But it is fairly common to react to people in a particularly fixed way, and that's where the mindset comes in. If your approach to others is one of looking to criticize them, of trying to sort out, well, what can I tell them that will make them more like me? What can I do to teach them the right way, with right in quotation marks? Then you're going to approach people with looking for flaws. Now, flaws will occur. We're all human beings, and it's helpful to be able to point out flaws that can be damaging, that the person may not have thought about, and that can be uh, appropriate for personal growth, for whether it be for the individual or the organization or family in which you find yourself. On the other hand, people who are primarily cheerleaders tend to approach situations, any type of social situation, whether it be at work, at play, family, anything, with the notion of trying to build up people to make them the best versions that they can be. Now, somebody's a cheerleader can neglect to look at, hey, there may be some impediments to their growth that I should be pointing out. So I think that it is really critically important to recognize that for most of us, we shouldn't be totally one or the other, totally critic or cheerleader, but we may have a primary mindset in which we approach others, and certainly my favorite one is to be a cheerleader. May not get us any monuments built to us, but the reality is that for most people, most individuals tend to be pretty good self critics. They tend to uh, notice their flaws, tend to uh, exhibit a lot of self criticism, and for many of them, they've been helped along in that regard by uh, significant people in their environment when they were growing up. Uh, could be bosses or teachers also who impose primarily a criticism. So there usually is no absence of criticism because of kind of the law of supply and demand. There's plenty of criticism to go around. We tend to be short on cheerleading though, and that's where I think it is important to approach others from the mindset of I'm going to be a cheerleader. Now, if I'm going to be a cheerleader for somebody, then I owe it to them to point out where they can be doing better, but I'm darn sure that I'm going to be focusing on what they've done correctly, what are some moves in the right direction, and how can they feel good about themselves. So while we need to be a dose of each, both critic and cheerleader, many people fail to do some of the critical tasks associated with being a good cheerleader. And that's kind of the message that I hope I can impart today. Cheerleading is an underutilized skill. It tends to be an underutilized personality type, and it is something that, if we're honest, the honest critic, whether they're doing it for a living, writing about movies, shows, any other kinds of things, will point out the positives as well as the negatives, and the honest cheerleader will do the same thing. So that we get to the same place. I just think you may have a better chance of influencing the person in a more effective way if you start out from the standpoint of the cheerleader. And you may find that you also notice some things that you wouldn't unless you were really looking for it. Because a cheerleader, let's say we're going to a sporting event and so on, if the team is behind, the cheerleader will look for what are some moves in the right direction. Do we have a short gain? Did we stop their best runner? Cheerleading is something that's an underutilized skill. It's one that shouldn't be mistaken for kind of inappropriate acceptance of everything, but operating from the proper mindset and willing to feed in some criticism when appropriate. Cheerleader can be a real good, helpful person in another person's life. And don't forget to be a cheerleader for yourself too. Again, don't be uncomfortable about acknowledging flaws, but be totally into recognizing moves in the right direction on your part. And on that note, I think we're going to end for today. This is Dr. Ron Kaiser, the Mental Health Gym, the Rejuvenating University and Rejuvenating Revolution. Looking forward to seeing you next time. And any comments that you have on this will certainly be appreciated.